What's up everybody, and welcome to the final episode of my State of Xbox Studios series, at least for the time being until other acquisitions officially close. If you stuck with me the whole way, first off, thank you so much for taking the time to do so, and I hope my videos were able to give you a better understanding of Xbox's 23 studios. As we've now analysed them all, it's time to take a 30,000 feet view of the situation and put each studio into 3 tiers. The first one being for developers we have full confidence in. The second being for developers where there is some hesitation, but are also just as likely to have a lot of success. And the third being for lost causes like 343 Industries. I've obviously already done this, and I think you'll be surprised on the key problem I figured out, which Microsoft needs to fix if it wants to compete with Sony and Nintendo's first-party games in the long term. Let's get into it.
I'm here, baby.
For me personally, the Xbox studios I have complete confidence in are the following: Ninja Theory, The Coalition, Turn 10, World's Edge, ZeniMax Online, Arcane, Mojang, Obsidian, inXile, and Double Fine. Mark my words, The Coalition and Ninja Theory will utilize Unreal Engine 5 to create graphically amazing worlds with engaging stories. Double Fine and Arcane's quirkiness will bring excellent unique experiences to Game Pass. And ZeniMax Online and Mojang will keep raking in that cash, which can then be given to studios like Obsidian and inXile, who always had insane talent but weren't able to showcase it in the AAA arena due to a lack of financial resources as an independent developer. For the studios where there is some hesitation, I've got to include Compulsion Games, Machine Games, Roundhouse Studios, Tango Gameworks, Xbox Game Studios Publishing, Rare, Bethesda Game Studios, id, and Playground Games. This is because they all have something to prove before they can be bumped up. Especially for Machine and Playground, this isn't an indictment on their talent. Wolfenstein and Forza Horizon compete with franchises from any other publisher. It's just that Indiana Jones and Fable are completely different experiences, so they need to prove they can branch out successfully if they're going to take on such beloved IP. For id, they did a phenomenal job of modernizing Doom, but they also need to prove they can modernize their other IP, like the rumored Quake game. Compulsion and Roundhouse still need to prove they can even make a good game, but they're in this tier because I have a feeling this was more due to extenuating circumstances than because of actual talent. Especially with Microsoft funding them now, let's hope they prove this feeling right. Finally, it's not looking great for Everwild right now, but Rare's immense success with Sea of Thieves means they'll always at least be in this tier. As for the tier of no confidence that no one wants to be in, I'm including 343, Undead Labs, The Initiative, and AlphaDog, as I think the chance of failure is far higher than them producing anything of substance this console generation. If Perfect Dark is even a respectable reboot when it comes out in 2025 or later, the staff exodus from The Initiative means that credit would go to Crystal Dynamics anyways. Undead Labs has released 3 games in its life, yet all 3 were completely broken at launch. I don't see why this time would be any different, especially as it's been over 2 years since State of Decay 3's announcement without a second marketing beat or a second of gameplay. AlphaDog is so irrelevant that they're not even worth mentioning beyond this sentence. And as for 343, well, put it this way, Halo Infinite was supposed to be the flagship Xbox game this generation. Instead, its 6-year development and post-launch content has been such a train wreck that it was the only game to get its own video in this series. Especially with the recent layoffs that took out a third of the workforce, there's no way 343 is going to produce anything of value in the short term.
I'm very worried about the future of Halo. I don't know how you lay off a quarter of your staff when you were already struggling to support the game and keep multiplayer functional, and now a quarter of your staff's gone, including a ton of people in the art department. You know, 343 has released their statement. We released our story corroborating some of the stuff that we've heard behind the scenes. They're saying, you know, we dispelled those rumors, but at the end of the day, what former employees are telling us are not good things. This is very concerning, and a 2-sentence statement doesn't do a lot to ease my concerns for the campaign DLC we were supposed to get.
And when they say, yeah, Master Chief and Cortana, they're staying here at 343. I'm like, okay, but with what team? And,
Yeah.
you know, Ryan, you hit on this too. It's like, you say this, but how can you say this?
So I know what you're probably thinking. I put 10 studios in the top tier, 9 in the middle tier, and only 4 in the bottom tier. How can there be a key problem for Microsoft if the number is so clearly weighted in favor of the good tiers? Because of this one simple fact. Microsoft quadrupled their first-party portfolio in order to take back market share they lost to Sony last generation. But these developers are not equal to each other when it comes to convincing the millions of PS4 owners out there to switch over to Xbox. In my opinion, the 5 studios that should be able to achieve this are the following: 343, The Initiative, Bethesda Game Studios, Playground Games, and Xbox Game Studios Publishing. Do you see Microsoft's problem now? None of them are in the top tier, as there are issues with all of them. For 343, they were handed the keys to Xbox's most important franchise, and yet here we are. Halo is in such a dire situation that when layoffs hit Microsoft to reduce overall headcount, instead of going to the objectively less important studios like Compulsion or inXile, Phil Spencer gutted 343 the most. These layoffs are perhaps the biggest indictment that Microsoft themselves have no faith in 343 to shepherd Halo. So why should potential Xbox buyers have faith in Xbox's first-party output as a whole if they have failed so badly with their most important IP? A similar critique can also be given to the Initiative. When they were founded in 2018, they were billed as the first ever quadruple A studio, whose sole purpose was to create cinematic experiences that rivals what Naughty Dog and Santa Monica have shipped. Well, it's now 5 years later, and all they've had to show is one CG trailer, a mass exodus that included staff going back to their old companies in demoted roles, and the unprecedented move to bring in a huge third-party developer to ship Perfect Dark for them. Again, by bringing in Crystal Dynamics, Microsoft tells us they have no faith that the Initiative can become the quadruple A studio they were meant to be. They have objectively failed to become Xbox's Naughty Dog. So if you're a PS4 owner who loved these cinematic experiences, why would you switch to Xbox right now when they have just shown they can't make them at a studio specifically built to do so?
I'm passionate about making sure that we deliver stories and premises that stand alongside our peers in TV and movies.
We wanted to create a world that people would be excited to come back to, something that was unique and had its own flavor. And that's sort of where we came to the idea of eco-sci-fi.
There's been an ecological disaster that affected the world on a global scale, but these corporations came in and they developed new technology. And for your average person, it's pretty awesome.
It's a hopeful world on the surface, but once you scratch past it, there's a lot of things to probably be thought about and maybe stopped.
As for Bethesda Game Studios, they're incredibly important as they're Bethesda Softworks' premier developer, who came to Xbox in the then unprecedented purchase of a whole publisher by a console maker. This industry-changing move showed Xbox would do what it takes to gain back market share, but BGS's games since Skyrim haven't been close to that quality. In fact, the only reason why I didn't place them in the bottom tier is because after the commercial and/or critical failures of Fallout Shelter, Fallout 4, Fallout 76, and Elder Scrolls Blades, Bethesda and Microsoft surely know they have to get Starfield right, or BGS's place in the industry as a prestige developer that guaranteed 90+ Metacritic masterpieces will permanently disappear. But if you're a PS4 owner, you're going to wait to see which way this goes, especially as there's already concerning factors like the year delay and that it might only run at 30 FPS.
I think for our games, I'm more of a 30 frames a second fidelity person. If I'm playing like a Forza or something, or a sports game where I can really, I think it matters for what I'm experiencing, I prefer 60. But for our style game, I honestly feel 30 feels great, and I'd rather have all the little bits and shiny pixels and be able to pick up the cups and, you know, I like that level of immersion.
For Xbox Game Studios Publishing and Playground, the story is a little different. They both already had great success this generation, and both are clearly talented entities with competent leadership. but they both ultimately need to prove themselves in certain ways if they're going to convince PS4 owners to switch to Xbox this generation. For XGSP, they are in the unique situation of directly competing with Sony's third-party exclusives. And as good as Microsoft Flight Simulator, Ori, and As Dusk Falls were, let's be real, these games aren't system sellers, and they're not convincing the masses to subscribe to Game Pass. And as promising as their upcoming games like Ara and Contraband could be, these games don't hold the same weight as the big guns like PS5's Silent Hill 2, Final Fantasy 16, and the potential MGS1 remake. They need to start signing deals of this magnitude on a consistent basis to really convince agnostic gamers that by going with Xbox, they'll still get a ton of important third-party exclusives, even if they miss out on some on PS5. Hopefully Kojima's Overdose is the first of that trend, but they need to sign more big games that are going to be coming out earlier, especially as Kojima's PS5 exclusive Death Stranding 2 will ship before Overdose comes to Xbox.
これよりコジプロ新オフィスに潜入するダイハードマンですというわけでね、行きましょう。でっかいテレビが、あ、これ知ってる。監督の SNS で見た。これで映画鑑賞会とかやってんでしょ。背もたれないから体感にいいね。ああ、ここすごいな。ここいいな。ここで寝ちゃうな。こんな場所で会議したら寝ちゃうな、僕だったら。アイデア湧く人もいるけど、あとみかんとかせんべいとかね。相撲見たくなるね。畳で。
As for Playground, again, I'm absolutely not putting any shade on them. Forza Horizon is a prestige franchise that has not only outclassed the mainline Forza Motorsport series, but has also put Sony's Gran Turismo to shame. But at the end of the day, it's just a racing game, and you can't relate to a car like you can to characters such as Joel and Kratos, even if the quality of the games are comparable. Playground need their own mascot, and Fable can provide one. However, we haven't seen anything since the CG announcement trailer over 2.5 years ago, because as it's their first non-racing game, it's naturally taking some time. I've no doubt that when Fable launches, it will be a great game, but if it launches in mid-2024 or later, over half the console generation will have passed. Therefore, despite Playground's S-tier talent, their third-person game is just going to arrive too late to try and convince many PS4 owners to move to Xbox. The likes of Halo Infinite, Starfield, Ragnarok, and Spider-Man 2 will have made that decision for them. Hopefully I'm wrong and they can still get out by March 2024 at the latest, but I just don't see this happening.
Every year is critical. I don't find this year to be more or less critical. Yeah, I feel good about our momentum. Obviously, we're going through some adjustments right now that are painful, but I think necessary. But it's really to set us up and the teams for long-term success. From a production standpoint, we're coming out of all of the COVID at home, and I think we've got a better working rhythm as an industry and things that are going on. And I'm excited. As an industry, when I think about this year, you know, I do think about the state of production in AAA games, and games have become really, always become big. Every year people have bigger ideas and bigger plans for the games that we're building. But ensuring that teams are set up for success in the games that we're building across the industry, that do we really have kind of the necessary skills on production to make sure that when we make commitments to our customers about when games are coming, we can deliver at the quality and the timing that we expect.
All in all, I think it's fair to say that even without Activision, Xbox already has a great stable of first-party developers that will guarantee excellent games for series consoles this generation. In this sense, the state of Xbox is in a better place for its more consistent first-party releases alone. As of 2 years into the generation, whatever the likes of Double Fine, Tango, and Obsidian have released aren't the games that will convince the millions of PS4 owners to switch over and gain back the market share lost due to Don Matrick. And when looking at the games that can do this, they have either completely failed in Halo Infinite, is not guaranteed to be the masterpiece it needs to be in Starfield, have already failed before release in the quadruple A Perfect Dark, or will just take too long to release in Fable and Overdose. Simply put, by the time heavy hitters really start falling, the generation will just be too far in for them to take back significant market share. Even looking at the next 6 months, the likes of Age of Empires, Minecraft Legends, Forza Motorsport, Hi-Fi Rush, and Redfall will sell fewer Xboxes than Ragnarok sold PS5s at the end of last year, because when it comes to being a system seller, there's just levels to this. I still do think Xbox will take back some market share this generation, but instead of Sony having around 70% like last time, it will be like 60%, which, let's be real, is still quite bad, and certainly not what Phil Spencer wanted. That being said, Sony better watch out, because by the time this generation ends, Xbox will have shown that it can now compete on the first-party front, with currently obscure developers like Obsidian, inXile, and Ninja Theory introducing themselves to the masses with games that showcase their talent under a Microsoft budget, and can even replace the objective failures of games like Halo Infinite and Perfect Dark as the S-tier first-party games. At that point, Microsoft will be in a position to even surpass PlayStation in the next generation if they aren't careful. Unfortunately for Xbox fans, they just got to wait for the next generation for this to become a possibility. Because the truth is, Xbox's failures over the past couple of years have been where it matters most, meaning it just can't beat PlayStation in the short term.